Yay!
How is it going? All right.
That's on.
So it's recorded?
Yep, we're
Oh,
recording.
perfect. What's up, you beautiful people? How's it going?
All right, I think this is the beginning
Hell yeah.
with Josh and Alex. No. Today, I put together a whole bunch of notes, and I'm going to be talking a little bit, and Josh is going to be commenting on how crazy it all is. No.
Which is going to be?
Right? The issue we're going to talk about is energy. Energy. Boom, boom, boom. I have my little whiteboard up there. I have my notes in my phone. So if anyone watches video, they can see me look at my phone for an hour and a half. I should put on the timer for this. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I think it's important to note, like, yeah, sometimes we're going to be talking, like, conspiracy ideas. Sometimes we're going to be talking things like this when it's kind of relevant to the world. And this podcast is just literally just an open conversation about any and all ideas that me and Alex find, we could have a good conversation about, and we feel like the listener could actually enjoy themselves.
Take it on.
Hell yeah. And
Right.
as always, look into anything we talk about, do your own stuff, formulate your own ideas. But I hope you enjoy whatever we talk about regardless. Yeah, one love.
Question everything.
Absolutely. Except for science, according to Fauci.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the only thing. Science is the only thing you can't question anymore. But
Right.
that's okay.
Right. All right, we're good. All right, for energy, we are going to talk about the concept of clean energy and food, because food is energy too. You know that? Food is energy.
I did learn that from our last conversation. So
Right?
Yeah, I got it.
Well, also, it's what humans use. Food is what humans use for energy.
Yeah, yep.
That's how we get our energy, because all of the energy in our immediate peripherals as Homo sapiens on planet Earth, the sun hits us, or the land, that turns photosynthesis and whatever, turns that into usable energy.
Yep.
And then we eat the green stuff, or we eat the stuff that eats the green stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how we go. So that's our energy. So food's a really important energy, but I also want to talk about the energy of electricity. That's another big one. Let me fix this.
Probably the most commonly referred to when you think of just energy is probably the electricity side of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So our history of energy, is apparently that how do we start off with energy? Pretty much all human energy, animal energy. Whoever started using animals, they probably used them to carry stuff first,
Gotcha.
right? And then they used them to plow and all that. There you go.
Agricultural stuff and things.
Yep. One horse with this is a random thing. One horse with horseshoes is as strong as 10 horses.
Really?
Yep, because they can put more pressure on.
Oh, no shit. I had no idea that's what horseshoes were for.
Yeah, they figured it out.
I thought those were to like prevent damage on the hooves or something.
I think so too.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it has to do like on harder roads and
Yeah.
stuff, but it also I think keeps it harder so it
Gotcha.
can take more pressure.
That's kind of like shoes for humans. You get more traction.
Exactly, yeah,
that
right.
makes sense, actually. That makes sense.
So horse, ox, cattle. Cattle actually is the word cat, like it has to do kind of like cap,
Okay.
which is Italian for head, capella. No.
Okay.
So it's a Latin word. So it came from Latin. So cattle actually referred to anything with a head. So cattle were sheep, cattle were ox, cattle were horses. So anything.
Blanket term
Yep.
for those.
So then that's actually where we got the word capital. Because cap means head, cattle means head, cap. The number of heads you have, that was how you leverage. There you go. We'll keep facts. But energy. So we went from human energy to animal energy. Then we figured out sails on how to master the wind. And we learned how to row. We learned how to sail in the winds. And we were pretty good at wind energy. But we also couldn't make that good of boats until about 1492. That's when Columbus sent. Yep, and the first time Columbus reached the New World, the Americas, actually at the same time, it was the first time Portuguese or European sailors in Western Europe rounded the Horn of Africa. So that was it. If you look at a map of Portugal, you know how it's on like that outside part? They wanted to get the spice trade that was controlled by Venice during the Renaissance. That's how the Medici family and all that, they controlled the transfer, the wind energy to get the food energy.
Yeah.
So they got on the spice trade. So they were masters of logistics of energy.
Wow.
So that's how they became one of the greatest powers, financial powers and trading powers, because they had monopolies on the trade routes, on how to get the spices throughout Europe. So that happened all throughout Renaissance Europe and medieval Europe. And what ended up happening was the Portuguese had enough of that bullshit. And Spanish, they said, we're not going to go through you guys. They used their own technology. They made fantastic boats. That's what their technology was. So that they used those to master how to get to the New World and the Horn of Africa in the same year.
Interesting.
And funny part, because we're going to talk about China, how they control the world and our futures, and they already own us. It's over.
Before you say anything, I agree. But
It's
I'd
over.
love to hear your explanation for it.
China, they
100%.
already won. They can do whatever they want. The only thing that can save us is that they lose control of 1.5 billion people. When it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard with a crazy totalitarian government that's coming into the middle class. Like, there's going to be some weird shit happening. Yeah. It's going to get really whatever. So only internal factors are going to be able to disrupt them. External factors, not too much.
One thing about, you said, obviously before Columbus, they weren't using actual sails. So what would, like, the Chinese, for instance, what would, like, the Scandinavians, like...
They were using all sails.
Okay, so were those not before Columbus?
We've been using sails since way before, like the time of Alexander and all that. That was like 500 BC.
Yeah.
And they definitely had sails.
Gotcha.
It's just the cloth technology.
They kind of mastered that. Okay, I misunderstood what you meant by that.
And it wasn't as advanced, so they didn't have as strong as metals. They didn't have as strong as sails. They didn't have as strong as woods. The technology wasn't there. Then over almost 1,500, 2,000 years, they managed to make boats that can go across the fucking Atlantic, which is insane. A wooden boat going across the Atlantic.
Dude, that's how I think about, like, the freaking Mayflower. You know how crazy those people must have freaking been?
I look at that all the time. I'm like, who would be on a fucking boat in November?
Crazy,
November,
man. Crazy.
Right? Like November cold with those waves.
These people just collectively decided, we're going to sail away on this death trap across somewhere we have no understanding of, with barely any food or rations, in hopes there's actually land where we're going. You know how crazy that is? And people took their kids and they're like, dude, that's so crazy.
And they traveled by the stars. Some of the amazing innovations were traveling by stars, and then they were able to map out latitudes and longitudes and stuff according
Even
to
back then?
Yeah,
wow. Well, I knew the stars. I didn't know the longitude and shit. Wow.
But that came in about 1700.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they had all sorts of ways, like it's called like a sextant. If you saw it, it's a little tool that's used to like measure horizon stuff. And it's crazy that they use stars to navigate, but they did, and that's crazy. Yeah, and tides. But but at the same time that the Portuguese in 1492 were able, or Spanish, were able to send ships to the Atlantic and send ships to around the Horn of Africa to find new spices. Because that's when they say Columbus was looking for India. Yeah. He was looking for alternative trade routes to India. Gotcha. That's why they went around Africa too. They were just like, send all the boats everywhere. Yeah. And
because he knew he didn't hit India when he hit America. He was that's pretty like historically accurate that he knew where he wasn't in India.
Exactly. Yeah. But then at the same time, China, who's going to take over the world, they actually just finished like some Civil War stuff.
Gotcha.
And what happened was the winning dynasty ended up saying, no more scientific exploration, no more adventuring out into the world. So in 1492, the Portuguese got a monopoly of the ocean and with the spice trades and all that stuff. And they went up. It's crazy that they speak Spanish in like the Philippines and stuff, isn't it? You know what I mean? In Asia, that's how far Spain went.
Conquistadors and shit like that.
Yeah.
Even before that.
Conquistadors. You say
Yeah.
conquistadors.
Conquistadors. I apologize, all the Hispanic conquistador lovers out there. I apologize.
A quisadilla.
Dude, my best friend's El Salvadorian. Obviously, that's not Spanish or Portuguese, but he's gonna persecute me from the mispronunciation when he hears that.
Right. So so then China gave up all of their searching. So they brought everything in at the same time Europeans were spreading out. And then we saw the effect of all of that for the next 200 years afterwards of European powers colonizing places like India, whereas it could have just as easily been the Chinese. But so that's wind energy, human energy, and what else do we have for our other? Oh, then we discovered like water, windmills, and all that stuff. The Romans used water wheels and all that stuff. Then what happened was we had animals, people, water, but then and energy, slave labor.
Yeah,
human labors are that is
one
one form of energy, and it's not just American slavery. Slavery is what built the pyramids.
Yeah.
10,000 years ago. So we've just been, every generation has just massive enslavements in varying degrees.
Yeah, native peoples and all around the world were having slaves. Obviously, Mesopotamia had slaves everywhere. Yeah, it's always been a thing.
And it exists today.
Yeah. We were talking that before this, the modern slavery, basically, the slave trade. It's insane.
Yep. So human labor, animals, wind. But then we found out about this stuff called coal. In about 1780, we found out about coal. And then we were able to change the world. Because then you could use the burning of coal, which is all primarily just pure carbon.
Yeah.
So you can unleash the power of the sun. Because it's all sun power. Yep. This is just billions of years old. Take that, burn it, turn it into steam. And then that can turn that steam into directions going horizontal that way or vertical this way. So that can change the motion, use energy to make motion. And that's how we started building from about 1780. Then the next 40 years was crazy. That was the Industrial Revolution. So we used coal to... The first things they started to use coal for was to start making machinery to dig up more coal.
Yeah, okay.
That was like the first thing they did. So then
it's like Minecraft. You build up friggin' steel to build steel to harvest steel.
Exactly. Yeah, they got the idea from the reality.
Yeah.
So we get there, and then where do we go? So then that happened until about 1850, and we got really good at steam production. That's when we had the Industrial Revolution, and then that's when we made textiles, and then we used the textiles and coal and all that shit. And at water wheels. That's what we used in Massachusetts. Yeah. And we harnessed that energy. And actually, Lawrence, as a mill town, was essentially the Silicon Valley of the United States.
Wow.
They were the most technically advanced city there possibly could be. They had...
Control narratives and shit.
No, it's true. They were in the industrialists. So that's how it happened. But then they started...
That's crazy.
Yep. And then coal, you can make stronger metals. So it all went into a big thing of more coal, stronger metals, more powerful machines. Yes. So that's why we had all of our trains, all just big steel machinery. And then during the change of those revolutions, energy, our fundamental understanding of it, mechanized things. So we ended up taking the mechanical energy of steam and coal and turning it into... What did we do? We turned it into steam and coal. The mechanization of the world with coal, we ended up displacing farm workers.
Gotcha.
And that's how we got the big power struggle, because the South owned slaves and crops and food, primary movers of energy, slaves. We didn't like that because we had machines.
The North was doing the opposite.
Machines, because and then that's where the social and economic convergence happened.
Gotcha.
Yes, slavery is bad or whatever, but what helped us get rid of slavery was the replacement value of machines, right? Like you could do more with machines.
That's sensible, yeah.
So that went on, and then we found out in probably like 1880, a little bit way before 1880. That's when the 1880 is when the whole modern world was born. Because a little bit before that, we found out about oil. So that the first industrial revolution was coal. Then we hit up oil, found out all about that shit.
Yeah.
And then
We know how that went.
right,
Yeah.
and that really took over the world. It turned into plastics, or just even materials. The first oil pump was coal powered. Right, because it has to be. That.
It's all work what they had. Yeah.
So then, once they started using oil, and oil is a liquid, so you can put it into moving vehicles better. And it was made for lighting.
Yep.
So we used oil for lighting. That's where Standard Oil and Rockefeller came from.
Scumbags. Yep.
But before he became a scumbag, he brought us into the modern world. So you can shit on people for bringing us in, becoming scumbags by ruling the world, but it's because they perform the logistical consolidation of energy forces to change the world.
I'm not disagreeing.
Because it happened, like I mentioned earlier, it happened with Medici to control the spice trade.
Spices, yeah.
Then it happened to the next biggest empire 100 years after that of Spain and Portuguese. Then it happened to the United States. We became leaders in coal production and oil production.
Gotcha, yeah.
So we're not assholes, like I said. We're just...
I got a preconceived bias. If you're a Carnegie, Rockefeller, Rothschilds, if you're one of those families, I look at you as the conspiracy Toromana guy I am. All the things I've heard, all the things I've seen them say and talk about and discuss, and their actual agendas, they are epitome of the it's a overused term, but the New World Order agenda type of thing. They're epitome of against humanity and only care about profits and whoever they interbreed within their families, within other families. That's what they do. They interbreed between certain families to make certain bloodlines. They've done it for It's insane. These people are insane. But business moguls, I respect it. I don't respect Standard Oil, though, because of even if you look at the conflict in Israel, taking the land from the bordering country, claiming it's Israel's, just to harvest all the oil out of it.
Yeah.
Things like that. Scumbag move. I think it's Pakistan. Was it Palestine? Was it Palestine that was the 80s or the 70s when they were doing that? Yeah. And now they changed the name to Standard Oil to something else because everyone hated Standard Oil.
Well, no, they broke up the monopolies and they became Chevron.
Okay.
And ExxonMobil and a whole bunch.
Oh, I thought it was because of the hate they were getting. That was my conception of it.
No, it was in the progressive era in the 1900s. They broke up the Rockefeller monopolies and U.S. Steel, the railways, and all that stuff because they had too much power consolidation. Because that's where all human power comes from is whoever controls the energy and means to control the energy at the time and make the most efficient logistic systems makes the rules. Someone told me, and I agree, it's called the golden rule. It's not the fake bullshit one of do unto others as you'd wish done to you. Yeah. That's a bullshit one. The real golden rule is whoever controls the gold makes the rules.
Historically,
And whoever makes the gold, that is an analogy that they would use for whoever controls logistics energy sources. So, and that's in terms of communication and transportation. That's why Carnegie and steel got so big, because they control communication and transportation, which means that you control everything else. They carried Rockefeller's oil, and then Rockefeller, to cut them out, he actually the railroads and all that. What he did was Rockefeller made pipelines.
Oil pipelines?
Yeah, because he realized it was just as easy to build a railroad track as it was to make a pipeline. So that's why we have all of our pipelines now. So he revolutionized that, or his company did. Oh, and the other one is, since we're talking about conversion of energy, it's because we're going to talk about the future of shit. So, like, if you want less shittier people, they need to find out ways to control energy. And then that's how we get good people in positions of power.
Gotcha.
Right? Whoever can make the breakthroughs. That's the only, because the other way of gaining, there are two ways of gaining control. There's the communist way, which is kill those people who own the means of production. Yeah. But then what happens in those communist countries is they become authoritarian and totalitarian. And then by doing that, you stifle innovation and creativity, and you kill the goose that laid the golden egg. So you don't want to become totalitarian because then you'll stifle your innovation and fall behind.
China, exactly.
They're
just
Russia.
intellectual property just
Russia.
stealing. They don't actually create in China.
Oh yeah. Well,
For the
what
most
happened
part.
was they're a little bit
Well,
different.
Russia's a better
where
example
they
for sure.
stopped
Yeah.
all innovation.
Yeah,
if
that's-
you're going to be a scientist
that's a
in
much better
Russia,
example.
it's not
Yeah,
a fun thing
yeah.
to do. Like
You're gonna build the nukes or spaceships, or you're gonna die.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like it's not a fun place to do.
Yeah. You be KGB or scientist.
Yeah,
rocket
exactly.
scientist. You pick.
Yeah, it's not what we want.
One of the two.
But then, where are we? China, Russia. Oh, innovation. Then the other way to take over a country is with innovation. And that's what Carnegie and Rockefeller did. There were no people murdered in wars, but what they did was use financial leverage to just get all the money, control what the people want. When you control what the people want, which was heating, electricity, and transportation, that was all Rockefeller. He brought all those things, and light and all that stuff with oil, coal, railroads. Whoever owned that stuff owns the people, control the people. And that's why they owned our country for so long. You know what I mean?
Some might say they still do. But yeah,
well,
I know
well,
what you
not
mean.
even so much them, because if you look at the profits, they always have. But then what happened was the new energy consolidators were the technology companies like IBM.
Okay.
They started making computers, which helped. IBM became one of the biggest companies in the world because they understood how to control the logistic systems of energy better. They can make all of our communication, all of our computer, all of our business better with technology. So that's why they learned how to use energy more efficiently through technology to become the biggest company in the world.
So has tech surpassed the energy aspect for annual profits and dominance of just importancy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think perhaps if all of U.S. oil companies converged, originally what Rockefeller had, it might be the biggest one, but it broke up into a whole bunch. The biggest ones now are Chevron and ExxonMobil.
Okay.
Because equivalent would be all of Saudi Arabia. They own about 1/3 of the world's oil. I think, yeah. It's pretty much like the U.S. owns 1/3 or exports 1/3, and Saudi Arabia exports 1/3, and it's pretty much that they have it's all a monopoly of one family, where the U.S. had to break up into a whole bunch of competing interests.
I know that the top 5 largest oil companies they made like roughly estimate like $900 billion in the last decade prior to COVID. It's stupid. It's stupid money. That's why I asked about the tech, because I don't know the tech aspect, but I'd assume they're neck and neck, if anything, maybe.
Yeah, they control, oil controls everything because it's the primary fuel. It's a major feedstock, and without oil, we don't have gasoline, we don't have diesel, we don't have plastic, we don't have the energy to create microprocessors. Nothing gets created in this modern world without oil. So you need it, and whoever controls the oil,
It's going to keep profiting.
They make the rules.
Keep having the dominance of the monopoly. Crazy.
So that's where we are now. We right now are in the oil age. Everything is made of oil. We are a fossil fuel civilization through and through. Everything in this room made by people who know science and primarily made from fossil fuels. No ifs, ands, or doubts about it. That's where we are. But one thing that we can do, energy is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I digress. My fault.
No. This is going perfect. I'm happy. I'm glad we knew we could.
I feel like you know what to expect when you talk to me at this point.
This is why I'm happy with
Fair
it.
enough,
I'm happy.
Yeah.
So the first one is fossil fuels. Because like we said, the fossil fuel companies do control the narrative. And that's why they're going to be so hard to cut back on what they want, which all relates to this, because we're going to talk about clean energy.
Okay.
So fossil fuels, the main takeaways from all of this, I wrote them. There you go. You can see.
Yes,
don't tell them. No, I'm kidding.
I can't spoil it.
No, you can't.
So there's a picture of a communist flag.
Right, that's it. Right,
This guy's a commie.
Yeah. But it has gay flags and Christian crosses on it. What kind of communists are
what
those?
Is we this? Don't know. Templar, the gay movement? That's a weird combo.
So
that's like a priest and a rabbi joke right there.
Yeah. All right, so fossil fuels are limited. When we burn them, they create pollution and CO2, and then they have their secondary pollution, as in like plastics and stuff, non-biodegradable chemicals. So fossil fuels are fantastic. one of the most amazing things in all of humanity. But at the same time, they serve the capacity of destroying humanity's existence on Earth within the next 1,000 years.
That's what I was going to say. Obviously, the carbon emissions that
Yeah.
everyone wants to talk about.
So, as great as they are, we are borrowing time from the future, and life is going to get very terrible real quick. A few degrees in temperature increases will affect food crops. It will affect microbiomes inside our bodies because they all run up at certain degrees. And it will be wild and crazy. So as fantastic as fossil fuels are in the production of electricity, that's what we're talking about. We're going to jump in, but it's about the production of electricity, not the material stuff, but electricity and fossil fuels. So problems, there are alternatives.
I gotta ask your take on the whole fossil fuel burning. You know, everyone. I don't know what. Honestly, just to be straight up, I haven't looked enough into climate change or global warming to speculate whether I truly believe it's happening. It's controversial, therefore I can't speculate whether I believe it or not without actually looking into it. But just a question I've always had is, if everyone wants a carbon emission tax, what is that going to benefit from these multinational companies and organizations that would clearly are making hundreds of billions of dollars annually? They're not going to give a shit. They're just going to pay it if they have to. What good is it going to do? From my perspective, it's going to make the average person of any country who burns or drives a car have to pay money, while the rich don't give a shit because they can afford to shill it out. It seems to be always had with everything. So what kind of solution is that?
I wouldn't say it's the best solution.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why we have to find out innovative ways to reduce it and have government intervene to make sure it's not too crazy, but then also set our goals realistically.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're here to do. Set realistic goals, ambitions to do the best we can.
Abolish the government. That's my goal.
Right? I mean, that's it. We can actually go over it is that there's another, it's a Harvard professor that I've been reading, and there are 3 components. This is a sidetrack of the energy stuff, but you said abolish the government. He has a theory of there are 3 components. The first component is multinational corporations, okay? The next component is sovereign governments, and the third component is individuals and individual sovereignty and liberty. His thesis is that we have corporations, governments, and people. As we move into the future, we're only allowed to get 2. Because he's studied all the history, and he says
it's an inevitability.
If one of them disappears.
Damn.
So our battle is, are we with our government or are we with multinational corporations? Our government, I believe, has already made the decision that they are owned by the multinational corporations and that the people have been cut out.
Yep.
That's American democracy. Yeah. That's one of the biggest threats we have, and that's where I stand, is that it's not us with our government working with global corporations or as they're, because it's going to be 2 against 1. Yeah. And one of them has to balance
a lot more resources than the third party.
Exactly. Yeah. So then we're getting cut out of our government. We're getting cut out of the national thing, and they're colluding, taking all the money of bailouts, payouts, whatever fancy word you want to use, their subsidies of taking a whole bunch of money from governments and debt and giving it to the rich. That's what's happening. I wish that it was probably us and our government, like the founding fathers decided of the social contract that the government works for the people.
Limited government to oversee the people, more state power.
And keep us safe, right? Protect us from all the outside forces.
Not turn into what they fleed from.
Exactly. So that's where we're at right now. Well, that was the side one. So then we have...
I meant fled from, not fleed. That was ridiculous.
We're doing good.
Well, all words are made up.
Someone had to make them. Okay, so fossil fuels, limiting and polluting. So we want to reduce fossil fuel energy as much as we can. 1, because it's limited, and 2, because it's polluting, and it produces enormous amounts of CO2 in our electricity production. So we want to get off of fossil fuels. The biggest things that they say are solar and wind. They call them, those are renewable energies, insofar as that the sun is infinite until we die, and the wind it comes back. It's always a process.
Yeah. But it's not like 24/7. It's
that's where we're gonna get.
So I didn't mean to cut
you.
you.
No. You already know the story. So it's clean because it doesn't produce CO2 emissions, but clean energy relies on dirty mining. So we need to keep that in mind. We can call it clean energy, but to get the materials to make that clean energy is very carbon intense and very destructive and very polluting. So when you hear solar and wind, it's not clean. I think of it as, what the heck is it? You know that scene in Lord of the Rings? I may have brought this up before. When they're making the orcs.
I don't know what it rings.
Oh,
I'm
no,
trying to think if I knew the scene.
Yeah,
but
they're making orcs and they're cutting down all the trees and it's just dark and fiery and oily and dirty.
I know what their world looks like or something. I can see
that's
that.
what our rare earth metals mining looks like throughout the world. It's very dirty, polluting stuff. It's clean insofar as that it doesn't make CO2 emissions at the back end of electricity production.
Gotcha.
The front end of the materials to get all that, very
Dirty
carbon
business,
intense. Yes. So it's all about
child labor.
I'm sure I wouldn't accuse them of that without knowing, but I imagine
Apple does shit like that. I'm just saying Apple would say, I'll call you on Apple.
Yeah, I imagine there exists in some capacity.
It's crazy.
So then it's renewable. It's clean without CO2s, but it's not clean.
Yeah.
The other problem is that solar and wind do not run 24/7. There we go. The wind doesn't blow all the time, and the sun doesn't shine all the time, especially here in the Northeast. If you're in Arizona, Florida, or other places, solar energy can be good. When you're in the Northeast in a winter, when we use the most of our electricity in the winter, we have the least amount of sun in the winter.
Yeah.
If you look, our generation of solar power gets as low as 0.1% on a cloudy day, which means that there's no solar energy being produced on a cloudy day, which means that there's no electricity to live off of. So if on a cloudy day or a non-windy day, those renewable energies are almost useless. There is a saving grace. If we increase battery capacity to like 10 gigawatts, that's enough to power a city. And then, so if on a length of, cloudy days, would you be able to do it? But battery capacity has not reached that point, so all the energy that gets produced on a sunny day just gets lost.
Gotcha.
And then we can't generate it again.
Are we able to move? And we can obviously harness the energy from solar and wind, but can we move it from one place to another? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how all energy actually happens.
I mean, so for the Northeast in the winter, could Florida transfer some of their plethora of energy to us in real time?
Yes.
And vice versa.
Theoretically, yes.
But that's not being implicated at the moment.
Yeah, because I've thought about that. I'm just like, why don't we put giant things all throughout the desert and just use that?
Because when no one is, and have them distributed to other places, or put them on satellites directly from the sun, have it shoot down. Is that too science fiction at the moment?
Well, that's it. So I'd want to talk to a scientist definitely about that, about why don't we just make giant solar arrays in the middle of Arizona that can power, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's wind turbines in random places.
Germany actually proposed an idea similar to that in the Sahara Desert in Africa. They were like, if they build enough there, they could power lots of Europe.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how far that idea went because it takes billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to do that. But at the same time, is it worth it? Is it feasible? I think so, right?
Yeah, especially if all these people are proposing that we're gonna literally have no planet eventually. What is the point of not spending that money if we're gonna die?
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. But right now, currently, it's battery capacity that's making wind and solar less efficient.
Okay.
So we can't meet our energy demands, especially for cities. Cities run 24/7, 365 all the time. So if it's not windy and it's cloudy at night in a city in the middle of December, Boston can't
function.
It's a pipe dream. So what do? We don't have fossil fuels. Solar and wind can't meet our needs. What do?
We burn fiat currency.
Yeah. burn everything.
I kid, people. I kid.
Actually, I think Massachusetts burns on a year. We burn just as much. In 1 year. Massachusetts burns or creates enough energy, electricity, from burning trash as we do solar power.
Really?
Yeah. So our solar power isn't even at full capacity.
Yeah.
I think we generate about of it in our state, we generate, let's on a good day, best day, it's I think our max capacity is about 10% renewables energy.
Yep.
Like on our best,
Yeah.
whatever. But that's of what we produce. We consume twice as much energy, so we're only producing 5% of our energy usage is from renewables.
Jesus.
Yep. So even if we doubled our solar capacity, so every solar panel and wind energy we have this year,
Yeah, it would only be like 10%.
and we doubled it.
Yeah.
That's only 10%.
Yeah.
And then we took all
Jesus.
that, and then we doubled that. Still not even there. And we have to keep going. And that's best case scenario of doubling everything we have exponentially, which is technically and costly, very inefficient. And even if we did maximize all that, if we installed 100%, 200% our solar capacity of what we can do, if we did it all one day, we got the money. Solar power doesn't have the battery storage, so even if we had all the wind and solar, if it wasn't windy and if it wasn't sunny, it's useless plastic.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
Damn.
So what's our alternative?
Off the top of my head, I got two ideas. I was just spitballing. Fucking.
Don't say hydropower, because hydropower is actually really viable.
No, mine's a little outlandish. I assume. Tesla, Nikola Tesla, he claimed that there was energy all around us all the time. There's for every square inch, there's like a ridiculous amount of just pure energy that can be harnessed. Is that a pipe dream? Was he just freaking out because he was one of the most brilliant minds to ever live?
He was onto something, but I don't know how the technicalities of it would work.
I don't either. I just don't have the idea out there.
The Tesla coil.
Yeah. Tesla was weird. I don't know if you know, like. He claimed he'd get ideas through deep meditation from other entities.
Yeah,
He claimed like demons and shit would come and talk to him.
Well, people say that about music and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't bother me much. Well, my answer to my loaded question.
Let's hear it.
Nuclear energy.
Okay.
Yep. Because nuclear energy is clean energy. Nuclear energy is as clean as solar and wind. By that I mean nuclear energy does not produce carbon emissions or greenhouse gases in the generation of electricity. Like solar and wind, to make the materials necessary, that requires lots of mining, dirty mining, and other pollution. So in the front end of getting the materials, it's just as clean. In the production of electricity and the production of the materials, it's just as clean as wind and solar.
Real quick, just because for some people, they might be thinking when they hear nuclear energy, they probably think Fukushima or Chernobyl. So is it that type of same like mentality?
No, those were really old.
Okay.
Yeah, those were from 40 years ago, Chernobyl, right? 40 years ago, which is 2 generations. Yep. Fukushima, I think, was made in the 60s or 70s or something.
I think it was late 70s or
so
70s,
they didn't have the backup, the safety precautions, because whatever. So now that the technology's gotten safer, more efficient, and there is radiation, but there's also radiation from the sun, right? So, but in the production of electricity, there's no radiation output.
From nuclear energy?
Nuclear energy. So they just use splitting of uranium atoms to make steam, and then use that steam to put spin a magnet inside a coil, and from that magnet inside the coil, they make electricity. That's as the steam to the spinning the magnet, that's how all electricity is made.
So that's literally what nuclear energy is in a nutshell.
Yep.
So why is it referred to as nuclear then? What's nuclear? Because when I hear nuclear, I assume, is it because it's a splitting of the atom as well?
Splitting the nucleus of an atom.
I assume, because I hear nuclear, I assume it has something to do with like nuclear weapons or nuclear technology or something.
Those are all different all similar. You're unleashing the power of the atom, but you're not transferring it in a weaponized form.
So whoever made that name fucked up. That's a bad name. Whoever associated that's a real idiot for that.
Well, that's exactly it. It's in our minds, what we think of when we hear the word nuclear is Hiroshima, Nagasaki, crazy Russian bombs, like missiles, Chernobyl, and then most recently Fukushima.
Yeah.
That's what we think. What we don't think is that 30% of energy right now in Massachusetts and 30% of energy in New England is from nuclear energy. 10% of energy, electricity production in Massachusetts, 10 times more than solar, was nuclear energy. So we've been on nuclear energy, but we just stopped because natural gas wanted us to stop.
Yeah. So is nuclear energy independently owned, or is it like is it a state or a government kind of research thing? Because that it seems like it can't be very profit too much because it doesn't really produce. You're not collecting anything. You're just kind of working on something.
You can
right?
make a whole bunch of money, yeah.
How then? I don't.
People pay the
Due
electric
to the
bills.
demand of okay.
Yeah.
My thing is like what I meant by that is like if you're digging up oil.
Yeah.
You're like that's profitable because
Yeah.
aren't you contracting the
Well,
people
what
out
would
to
happen would be you would excavate the materials, uranium.
Okay.
You'd excavate that in the same way that who's ever excavating oil.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think about that.
You can get uranium from ocean water. Whoever could crack how to get uranium out of seawater will become the biggest millionaire in the world.
Seawater is like the key to everything, huh? If you can learn how to purify to drink it.
Exactly.
That's like a...
And the reason we can't desalinate seawater is because it's very energy intensive. So it takes so much energy of coal and fossil fuels to purify water. It's not economically feasible. But if you can get uranium from salt water, that can the world will be infinite. But because then you'd be able to efficiently make nuclear energy, which would be crazy.
There's that a thought of in 1,000 years people are gonna have the same conversation saying how nuclear energy is bad because carbon's killing the atmosphere and then nuclear is gonna kill the ocean. There's no oceans left. I can see people 1,000 years from now panicking about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Currently, you can get uranium in Kazakhstan, which is between I think Russia and China. It's right in the middle. So
that's a bad place to be in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the uranium is. So yeah,
Jesus.
But then I'm sure there are all sorts of other places that you can geologists.
Yeah.
I'm sure Australia has a shit ton of it. But then, so nuclear is clean. A nuclear facility has a life capacity of 30 to 50 years. Okay. So what I propose is in Massachusetts, we currently run at about 85% natural gas, which went up because we got rid of nuclear. We got rid of nuclear. That space wasn't filled by renewables. That space was filled by natural gas. All of our energy, 85%, comes from natural gas. We get about 5% of hydropower and then 10% other stuff, including renewables. So we have all of that. So if we want to get off fossil fuels, natural gas, solar and wind can't meet our demands. Nuclear energy can. And we don't get CO2 emissions. So it has all the pluses without the negatives. One thing stopping us, like you said, is the marketing and the fear. That was
huge. I mean, that's like they gotta rebrand themselves. I mean, that's like having the last name Hitler nowadays or something like that. Like, you gotta remarket yourself. Yep. That's a bad strategy.
Exactly. So that's why I'm here to bring up nuclear power. It's powerful stuff. Okay, let's keep going.
Real quick before we move on to the next, any downsides that you can think of to nuclear? Like, because everything has flaws.
Yeah.
The best things have flaws. What's the potential downsides?
To get enough uranium, lots and lots of mining. Lots and lots of mining, like tons of mining. But we do the same amount of mining to get rare metals, oil, manufacturing, this and that to get microchips to run our green technology. So we do a lot of mining and environmental destruction there, which would be equivalent to the uranium. Or it would be even less.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Then the other ones are... There are potential threats of accidents happening, but those accidents can be better contained with better technologies, better staffs. And in the U.S., it's good to have whistleblowers. Big fan of whistleblowers because if shit's getting shady, you want to protect the people to say safety issue, putting people at risk, and we protect those people. So we need whistleblowers, obviously, and that for every industry.
That's in any area of that should be a requirement. If you
Yeah.
see nonsense going on, you should
Exactly.
be obligated to say
So,
something.
Exactly, and you get the legal protections
Yes,
afterwards.
yes. Unless you're Edward Snowden, but yeah.
Yeah, no. But bless him, man. He's
Poor
the man.
guy.
He
Poor
needs it.
guy.
Yeah, I'm pro Snowden.
Free Snowden, free
Right.
Assange too. That poor guy just dying in jail right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, right.
How hasn't he committed suicide? Yeah, that's my question.
Because right. Jeez.
That's great. Different story.
Right.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, no. So, all right, so I'll go over real quick. The main takeaways are fossil fuels are limited, polluting, and create CO2. Problems. We need to get rid of fossil fuels. Our alternatives, solar and wind, can't meet our demands of electricity production because of battery storage right now. So maybe in 40 years, solar and wind will be up there.
Because we'll have the advancements
better,
in these
exactly,
areas,
and
gotcha.
then we'll be there. But to get us for the next 40 to 50 years, we got nuclear power because it's clean and it's clean and can make 24-hour electricity production enough to power cities.
What if? Hear me out. What if China made an artificial sun that's literally harder than the actual sun? Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, their reactor.
Yeah. What if we made variations of those? Are those possible to harness the energy off of those in a clean way?
I'm not sure if those are hydrogen powered or nuclear powered.
Gotcha. I thought it was nuclear. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I might not know. Don't take my word for
Yeah,
that. But
no,
I
I
think that's what it was.
Yeah,
think
I
had a
saw
connection to that.
something about that, but yeah, that's what they're working on.
So would that be a safer alternative than having the plants? Because as you mentioned, there's a chance that if there's not proper maintenance and oversight of these things, it could go horribly wrong or with anything, not just anything.
I don't know
obviously,
what the purpose of. I don't know if theirs was just theoretical experimentation or if they were trying to find practical uses for it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
I think they just have way too much money and resources.
Yeah, well, they're pushing the limits of science, something we should be doing.
Yeah.
And they don't have whistleblower protections, and they're
Because
totalitarian.
They get killed.
Yeah, so they shouldn't. They're the ones. It's not the best to be doing. They don't have ethical gray lines
No,
because
yeah,
they just
absolutely.
don't have ethics. Here, when we do research, I hope that we have ethical people,
Yes.
right?
Unless you're Fauci experimenting on dogs, different story.
Exactly. Well, he outsourced that.
Yeah. Makes him helps us conscious at night.
So then the next one, so actionable steps is nuclear energy to power our cities, and that's powering our cities. Boston of 7 million, Springfield of 107.
There's 7 million people in
No,
Boston?
7 million
Oh, I
Massachusetts.
was like, Jesus
700
Christ.
to power our cities of 700,000 in Boston, 150,000 in Springfield, and 180,000 in Worcester. Those are some of our biggest cities.
That was some Rain Man stuff. That was impressive.
Yeah, well, Quincy has 90,000, then the other towns are Lowell and Lawrence. They fall somewhere in between there, between 120 and 90,000.
Oh.
And I say in between because they have primarily large immigrant groups, which are transitory,
Fluctuate,
which we
yeah.
don't know their population.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that racially. I'm saying that it's just the way cities operate. But do you
It's
like
crazy
that?
you gotta
That's
say that-
also me saying I don't know how many it was, so I gave a range.
It's,
But those-
it's unfortunate you got to say this isn't racial just because you're saying immigrants. Like it's crazy how it's politicized nowadays. Just people coming to another country is a political issue.
I'm fine with it.
I am as well.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's insane though.
For la gente latina, man.
Me amo Josh. That's what I
Yeah,
remember.
that's what you got.
That's all I remember.
All right, so powering cities with nuclear energy and disperse, however, at the same time are less electricity intense areas, they can definitely go off of wind and solar. You know what I mean? Their electricity demands aren't even half as whatever. So nuclear power cities, solar and wind meet the fill in the demands, and then in 40 years we can be completely on renewables. I would hope, right?
Yeah.
That's the ambition, but we need a transitory thing. Right now, the transitory fuel was fossil fuels, and our question is: do we want to stick on natural gas in Massachusetts for the next 40 to 50 years? My answer: if we could do nuclear, let's go. Let's try new shit.
We have a track record of it working, apparently. So I don't.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. So-
aside from the corruption aspect of influence from foreign companies, it seems like there's no actual reason not to give it a shot again. If it seems
It's
to work.
whatever the people of Massachusetts want, they should get because we're the ones spending the money.
Agreed. I think, with that being said, though, they're not being given the correct information. I feel like,
And that's
about-
what we're doing right now.
Absolutely, man. That's the problem with everything. Just the bias of not giving full perspective on different topics. It drives me absolutely insane in anything in life.
Yeah.
It's
And I'm not against fossil fuels or oils because they make amazing, wonderful things. They're just destroying humanity.
Yeah.
They're destroying life on Earth and all life as we know it for the next, hundreds of thousands of light years.
I see it as they serve their purpose to get us to where we are today.
Exactly.
You know, it's like
That's what Marx said about capitalism too.
Okay, all right. I ain't saw no Karl Marx, but listen,
Like it worked good enough to get, but it's true. It did work good enough to get us here.
Yeah.
So then nuclear energy, and then like I said, we'll skip this. The two takeaways, actionable takeaways, are nuclear energy for cities. The next one is us stop wasting so much shit. Stop wasting plastic, single-use plastic forks, single-use plastic wrappings, single-use plastic bags, single-use plastic this, plastic that, plastic that. If you bring a water bottle in here one more time, I'm going to fucking stab your face.
You know what, though? Let me tell you something. I did buy an aluminum carrying one.
Yep,
I got Yeti cups and stuff.
Yeah.
I use those for like sodas and booze or whatever. But like I bought one for the gym, and I use the water fountain, even though it's got a shit ton of fluoride. It's whatever.
Yeah,
but
you'll be fine, yeah.
I'm doing something. I'm working up there.
There we go.
But no, I agree. When we did that podcast, I was like, okay, I really thought about it. I was like, I don't always recycle, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, anytime I have anything, obviously everything recycled is not going to be recycled. I know the system is ridiculous, but it makes me feel subconsciously a little better. Yeah. But I'm working on it.
90% goes unrecycled.
Yeah,
that's probably even more right now.
That's so crazy.
And that's not just the feedstock of oil. That's to melt it, turn it into the product, to ship it here. Like we use the diesel fuel to ship it here, then we throw it away. All no bueno. So single-use plastic, and throw away food, and keeping energy inefficient materials. So if we stopped wasting food, energy, and plastic, our carbon emissions, we can cut by 20, 30% without any innovation. With personal responsibility and knowledge, we can reduce our carbon emission. That's a fact. Significant factor. And it's something that we should do. So if we want to reduce carbon, waste less, and nuclear energy. Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week.
No, but I am going to run off.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Keep this on.
Absolutely.
Talk about whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, with that being said, folks, a lot of heavy information being thrown out here. A lot of heavy information. I don't like how Alex mentioned me in the same sentence as Karl Marx, to be honest with you. No, it's the thing about communism is, this is a complete sidetrack. The thing about communism for me is I've always had this idea that, communism is actually a good idea. It's a really good idea if you have 5 or 6 people on a desert island. That's when communism is a great idea. Aside from that, it's no. But no, you're good. Take your time, man. Man, this is interesting. For anyone sitting out there watching this, I don't want you to think that I'm kind of like just allowing Alex to say whatever he wants without giving him kind of a rebuttal on it, because like I said, I don't know enough about climate change or global warming or whatnot, so I can't really go into specifics of it, which is my fault. I lack the knowledge on that aspect of things. I've heard contradicting statements on both sides of the argument, and unfortunately, I haven't sat down with someone who is extremely knowledgeable on the subject to tell me whether or not it is or isn't. And nothing to Alex's credibility in any way. I'm not saying that he's not credible enough to persuade me. I'd like to be presented information, and I guess I just need to do the research, long story short. But, when it comes to nuclear energy, I'm very skeptical because of the fact that the stereotype behind the word nuclear, but aside from that, just the aspect of, to me, it seems a little risky and unstable. Alex even admitted when I asked him, what are the potential downsides of things, he wasn't like, oh, it's going to be... It's not expensive. It's not going to destroy the environment. No, he was like straight up. It has the potential to cause big chaos, more or less, if it's not properly maintained. And that's a big issue for me, because one thing is, what if humanity gets wiped off the face of the earth? What if there's a war? What if there's a EMP blast or whatnot, or a solar raid? We lose all capability to have control over our electronic grids or whatnot. And I assume that's not going to be all dependent on natural energy, the nuclear, unless you're going to have nuclear supporting itself and running itself, which doesn't seem practical, at least to start with. So, if you lose that accessibility of the electric grid, what's stopping that nuclear energy plant from just shutting down or reacting negatively. And again, I'm very crude on the information of how they actually function. I'll ask Alex when he gets back, actually, of the functionability of how these plants actually operate. But I think it's a little. I think the risk reward ratio for me at the moment is it's borderline. It's borderline not worth it from what it sounds like. Because we can't trust foreign government. I don't even trust my own government personally, but I don't trust foreign government entities to have proper responsibility and proper ethic guidelines when it comes to maintaining these nuclear facilities. I do not trust the CCP. I do not trust Iran. I don't trust Russia. I don't trust a lot of countries. It's not that I don't trust the country. It's I don't trust the people in charge of it and the influences they have on the outside of the perspective. In a capitalist society, we're influenced mainly by corporations and businesses. My thought process has always been, who the hell is influencing the CCP? Who's the devil on their shoulder in this whole nonsense, this whole craziness? I'd love to meet that person. But no, basically, I'm just my concern is just all around the fact that it seems very, very high reward and very high risk at the same time. It was a little reassuring that he said, I don't want to sound like a pessimist either. I'm not saying this can't work out and it's going to fail. But Alex, I think you think he threw the statistic out of 15% of all energy in Massachusetts. I believe it was 15. Don't quote me on that. He said, Massachusetts was kind of running on partially nuclear energy for a while, and it was working out relatively well. If it's working out relatively well, and that's a good thing. A population of 7 million people. I don't know how many reactors are necessary for that type of thing. If it works, it works. Though I'm not opposed to it. I just think that, like I said, risk reward. I just rambling about the risk rewards of nuclear.
Right, the fears.
Yeah, I stated just the fear of what if a solar burst from the sun hits or an EMP from a foreign entity, or if nuclear war or whatnot, and we're kind of left in the dust. What happens to those reactor facilities in the case of no electricity or no?
I think
human
all sorts
interaction?
at that point, all sorts of technologies are threatened.
Agreed, but tech's not going to blow up a large area of the population, where
even they don't have the capacity really to explode.
Okay, explode might have a leak. Maybe is better. No,
I mean, I'm sure there are, but they would be extra protected. They'd build them so much now with the idea of knowing that that is a major risk.
Okay.
And that they don't want any problems happening. And a leak, like there could be, or whatever, it's still not. Oil leaks, oil spills are much more devastating. Like the ones in the Gulf Coast and all that. Yep, and those are very devastating.
Still no repercussions today, right?
Exactly. Completely destroy our water, put oil everywhere, just loads. Then other ones are nuclear energy doesn't. In the creation of electricity, it doesn't possess the capacity to end life as we know it on planet Earth. Fossil fuels do. Burning all of our electricity as fossil fuels creates enormous amounts of CO2, which will accelerate will increase our temperatures and destroy our Earth faster.
Okay, nuclear energy plants, though, if something did malfunction, doesn't it cause radioactive barriers around the site itself? I mean, you couldn't go to the test sites, Chernobyl, shit like that. Aren't those kind of still like huge levels of radiation if you're exposed to it for long enough?
I think so, but the safety measures would go up. But it's still, I think that it's, like I said, we have so much nuclear going on right now.
Yeah, no,
it's so much going on right now,
and
it's so safe that it's so safe that you don't even know it exists.
See, I agree with that. My problem, I said it when you were gone, my problem isn't mainly the U.S. My problem is foreign entities, Wuhan, China, okay? They allowed, whether you want to believe it or not, they allowed a bat with a live coronavirus to literally leak from a lab. That's just a virus. Right. Now, what if, for instance, inevitability that something like this will happen again in any circumstance when you're working with things like this, whether it's gain of function research, nuclear, something's going to leak out.
But it's not going to spread. It's contained.
I don't think I have a clear understanding of nuclear, to be honest with you. I think I'm trying to make an argument with something I don't fully understand.
Yeah, no, it would.
A nuclear facility malfunctions. What happens? What is the actual, like...
This protocol. There's really not too many explosions and stuff.
Okay.
There's radioactive debris and stuff around, but
Okay.
it's all very manageable. It's a nuclear reactor is much more manageable than the BP oil spill. There you go.
I feel like BP people like overlook because it affected the ocean and shit. You know, it didn't affect
Yeah.
land. If it affected the land the same way it affected sea, which is I'm not justifying.
And oil companies own
Yeah,
media,
yeah.
so they got to put a little nix on whatever story. got out.
Absolutely, yeah. Every mainstream media is bought and sold for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to be
No,
combative
no,
with the
no.
idea because I agree that fossil fuels most likely aren't the best solution at this point. Just many contributing factors, but
So that's it. We need an
interesting.
alternative to power cities for the next 40 to 50 years. Solar and wind can't do it, so our choices come down to natural gas or nuclear. And it depends which one we want to invest
There's
in.
no other alternative ideas that are rational.
Hydrogen power.
Okay, what's that consist of?
I don't know the details too much
Fair
on
enough.
hydrogen power, but it's essentially, I think, at the atomic level of being able to deal with neutrons and all that stuff.
Oh, that's where you get sketchier.
yeah.
as
Well,
hell then, right?
well, it's the same thing as nuclear energy. You're just
Okay.
splitting an atom.
Again, I think I just associated the yeah. Okay.
Oh, and then the other issue is storage. So after you use it, the materials for nuclear processing, that's the hour mark.
You gotta go.
No, that
Oh, bet.
we're not even halfway, dude.
Let's get it.
So then what the hell happened? The storage afterwards. It's big old bricks of radioactive material, and what you can fit them in the size of, you could fit the next 50 years of excess waste in underground facility with all safety measures, because it's not explosive. It's just like, imagine like you'd see like in a cartoon, like, you know, like that, like
The glow thing,
but it's
yeah.
not really like that. It's invisible. Radioactivity is invisible,
Gotcha.
but in your mind, it's like whatever's real close to it.
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah,
get
yeah.
that's kind of radioactive. But if they just stick that underground in big tubs full of, I'm gonna call it water, but a liquid, so it kind of keeps it safe, but it's not volatile. By
How
any
much
means.
is one? How much would be produced annually if, say, every country used it as opposed to all fossil fuels? What would the full outcome be?
I think if less than this room, so like a couple cubic meters.
Like this room we're in, or like this whole garage?
The couple that just this little room.
Oh,
Yeah, very small. So you could fit like
for the whole world.
for the whole world. There probably isn't enough uranium to power the whole world.
Gotcha.
So lots of I've heard that there's a timeline on uranium production of 200 years, which would be just enough. You know what I mean? Until technology gets 40 to 50 years, it would be the good time frame of that buys us enough time to wait till the tech catches up.
Yeah. Or we go to Mars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we get uranium on Mars, radioactive material from there, and bring it back,
Yeah.
now we're dealing with some serious stuff.
Do we know if they have any there?
I don't know what they'd
Yeah.
have to land and get
Fair
some
enough.
samples.
Yeah.
But then, okay. Oh, so stop wasting so much. That's our fucking problem. We would reduce so much of our carbon emissions if we stopped wasting. Just flat out, because once we stopped wasting, companies would stop producing as much, prices would reflect reality, and the prices would go up. We'd only be buying what we use, spending the same. That's the economics. So that's where we need to go. The nuclear power cities. Now the problems we're going to go into with clean energy. So two things I guess we'll debunk is that nuclear is dangerous. It's not. It's clean. It's safe. It doesn't produce CO2, and it uses uranium, and we can store it. Great, fantastic thing. It's awesome. The other thing we're going to debunk, so if nuclear is good, green solar energy,
Yep.
that is not as clean as we make it out to be. All of the tech used to make solar panels and windmills, all carbon intense. all heavy mining, which is the most polluting industry.
Yep.
So it's so carbon intense to extract all the metals and materials and plastics and glass. Like, look at a solar panel. A solar panel is made of glass full of chemicals. So that's a shit ton of carbon being emitted for the extraction
Yeah.
to make the mine, the processing. So the glass, the plastic, all the metal alloys, all of the conductors, all of the microprocessors, all the tech is all embedded with lots of pollution. And we don't look at that when we think about it. So, and all those have a lifespan less than 40 years. So we'd have to
We keep
replacing them. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing that people say about Teslas and electric vehicles and shit. Like, yeah, they can be electric, but where's that electric coming from? It's
Right.
coming from
Batteries and
natural.
microprocessors. Those are very carbon intense materials, and those are the heart of green technologies. Our efficient technologies are tech reliant. Tech is carbon and all that reliant. So the two things we're going to look at real quick are, so it's not clean, materials and mining and all that. Then the other thing we have to look at, this is where we can aluminum foil.
Okay.
hat.
Well, my favorite. Let's go.
Batteries run on metals, okay, and rare earth elements, and China owns all the production and manufacturing of rare earth metals. 80% of all the tech to make fighter jets, to make cameras, to make our phones, to make our
Yeah.
our infrastructure, China controls almost all of it.
17 main ones, right? Like components or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah.
17, then there are all sorts of other
Sub
ones.
ones or something,
Look
yeah.
at you. You watched the
Yeah,
video. You saw that
yeah,
one
yeah.
video.
I picked up all information.
Right.
I study, folks.
Yeah. So
Nah, it's
China
crazy.
controls all that. And so they own the mining, and then that all gets to processed. However, one of the main consumers would be Taiwan, and they are the world's largest exporter of microprocessors.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Guess who wants to own Taiwan?
Is it China?
China.
Oh.
So they're going to own all of our earth metals and all of the microprocessors, which means that they control the modern world just as much as Rockefeller and oil in Saudi Arabia. The oil, they own the tech. China, hands down, they control it all. So they're going to own Taiwan, and they own all the earth metals. That puts the United States in our balls are in their hands. The modern world. That's one of the biggest things we have to look at. So green technology, we sacrifice our independence for manufacturing purposes for technology, and we create enormous amounts of pollution. So green technology, as fascinating and awesome as it is, and as much as I want to support it, until we reach our battery capacity of 10 gigawatts, until we get around there, we are in a conundrum.
Yeah.
It's carbon-based fuels or being in the balls of China, or our balls in the hands of China.
China's really positioned themselves in a very odd spot in this fucking current world, man. Like, they have a lot of countries have had power throughout the time. I'm not going to compare them to other countries, but they have a lot of leeway right now in this world.
Well, it's because their population would be, because I don't know too much about China. I wish I should talk to someone about that politically, because their population would be the same as the United States and Europe and more. So, because Europe, I think, has a population of like 400 million. The U.S. has a population of 320 million. Exactly.
It's like three something.
Yeah. So then
something.
still China has more people. So
Yeah.
they're operating on such a big scale. So, it's...
Then you got India with the same amount of people, and they're not doing nearly as much nefarious shit. It's like,
because they're not as technologically advanced. Well, I think that they are, because they have nuclear power, they have nuclear bombs.
Space program, I think.
Their space program, real high. They're involved in tech. One of the biggest manufacturers of vaccines is in India. Yep.
I think they have a lot more poverty per capita than China does, though.
I'm not sure, but they definitely are behind. Like, you don't think of India as being the global dominating force.
Yeah, no.
Whereas China is the global dominating force in every capacity.
I always found it pretty funny about China. I'm a big movie fan. my guilty pleasure is watching mindless stupid movies,
Nice.
and they have such a stronghold. Like you were talking about having the balls and our balls, they have our ball. Our balls
Yeah.
are in their hand of Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
you ever seen that video of John Cena making
Speaking,
an
yeah.
What the hell was that? Or like Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
you know that movie?
Yeah.
This is relevant. The woman who plays like the woman who teaches Doctor Strange all the mythic powers, she was supposed to be an old Asian man, and then old Chinese man, and then the Chinese public or whatever, whoever,
Tibetan.
someone didn't like it, and over there, like whether it's the government or the people, so they changed the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
It's like that's a weird thing, but it's like, man, like they have that much leeway of what goes on in an American produced film. Like that's strange to me.
Yep, they have the investments. And they own lots of property in all the big U.S. cities.
Man, I know that.
Yep.
Fucking weird.
Yep. So there we go. And then food. Food creates a lot of carbon emissions. That's our energy. The whole theme was energy.
Yeah.
Energy control. But then, so our food, our energy, that's real carbon intense. So if we waste less food as we get our calories and do more eco-friendly production of food, that's good. Less pesticides, waste less, cut down a little on meat, you know what I mean? Just a little, or whatever level anyone wants. But
not even just the energy part, just the health part, man.
Yeah.
Dude, you got like 2 million obesity deaths a year, like 17 million cardiovascular deaths a year around the world. Like, dude, like people are just very unhealthy. In every aspect, people should cut down on what they're eating and how they eat it.
Less processed shit.
There's many reasons. That's a big one too, just the energy factor, but your health factor too. There's many, man.
Big time. Well, that's it. That's why I'm saying if we waste less, because beef is the most energy intense food, and a lot of it goes to waste, and eating too much shitty fatty beef or whatever, that can be a
Like the fake beef,
exactly. That's
it's not real
that's a
beef
health
anymore.
problem. Yeah. And I'm not a proponent of the fake soybean meat.
No,
either.
I tried veganism for a while, liked it, and then I started eating that soy shit, and I maybe stopped eating vegan.
Yeah, you can be a vegan and just
It's hard
eat.
though. That's hard.
Exactly.
Shout out them. That shit's hard, man.
Vegetarian. So
That's what I'm basically at right now. I don't like red meat that much.
So all of our energy, we waste so much, and we're inefficient, and fossil fuels are killing us. So we need to stop fossil fuels, go to nuclear, and waste less plastic, food, and electricity.
Definitely.
Those are the answers, actionable answers. And China's going to own us.
You know, you had me all the way up until China's going to own us. No, I'm just kidding. Dude, it's an inevitability at this point. I mean, it's...
Right?
I feel bad because, like, you know, China gets so much flack, man. It's not the people, because America gets a lot of flack, too, and around the world, and it's not American people for the most part.
No,
it's the freaking... It's the
governments.
it's the governments and the corporations, man, you know? It's... I've always felt that way about war. It's like, why are we going to war and killing people who had no say in any of these policies? Why don't we have these freaking politicians gunning out like they did in the Wild West? You know, like it's crazy. I don't get it.
And I'm just looking at my notes.
Absolutely. I'm just rambling
No,
about
do
nonsense
it.
at this point because it pisses me off.
No, but I think we hit all the points, so you're doing good. Back on food production and energy is 70% of our water goes to production of food. And most of
I remember you said that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep. And to pump it, clean it, uses lots and lots of fossil fuel energy because it's electric powered, all the pumps, all that stuff. Lots of energy there. Lots of pesticides, herbicides. Those are all petrochemical based and poison based.
Speaking of water, why can't we just collect rainfall? That's a crime in the U.S., isn't it?
I don't. In some places, I think they say it is or something, but I'm not really sure.
Is it like dangerous to consume?
I think that they want to cut back on reducing the risk because I'm sure in history there are idiots who are like collecting it off their roof. And then collecting it off the roof and that has bird shit in it. And they're just guys, don't drink bird shit water. Like, you know what it is? So they just, instead of going through the science of it, they were like, no rainwater. There you go.
Gosh, that makes sense for stupid people, but that's a bad idea. That's a bad reason to do it, but I get the reason. Absolutely. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. And then transportation, shipping, that creates a lot of, because we have what's called cold chain storage of food. So that means once it's picked, it stays cold. Then we put it on crude oil diesel oil, crude oil, I don't know, powered cargo ships. And so we're just wasting tons and tons of carbon and fuel to get food we use all the shit to make the food, grow the food, transport the food, package the food with the plastic and all that stuff, keep it refrigerated. You buy it and then throw it away.
When you say it that way, how the hell are these companies making money? That's a lot of work, man.
Because they're offsetting the true cost of all the shit they make, all the CO2 production that's embedded in the material.
Yeah.
They ignore all those environmental costs. If we accounted for those costs, it would be through the roof. But we're too much of dumb bitches to pay what we're really paying for. So if we had the cost reflect what it actually was, our waste would go down immediately. If our food and electricity and plastic showed the environmental cost in the price of what we're doing, we would not be giving away free forks to people that they just threw away. So that goes for straws, plastic bags, all that shit. We would not be giving that shit away for free, which means that people would not waste it.
Gotcha.
So the cost, like, yeah, it is true, but you gotta buy so much plastic crap for almost free that it's why keep it? And we need to have pictures, like live stream of just trash dumps in Massachusetts, and just show it every morning.
See what it's about.
Yeah, and so don't put Fox News. Put fucking mining industry, fashion industry, and plastic trash waste like dumps. Put fucking cameras on them and just show how disgusting we
Throw
are.
in some factory farming in there if you want people to fucking kill
Exactly.
themselves.
Yeah.
That
Just put
shit's depressing.
all that shit on
Yeah.
reels, and we will waste less because we'll see how much of pieces of shit we are.
100%.
Because we are complete pieces of shit. Oh, and that's the other thing. The microprocessors, batteries, all the carbon that we could produce in the mining and all that stuff, it's in such small, isolated fragmentations in the devices that we can't recycle it.
Yeah.
Because it costs more to get the stuff out of the microprocessors than to just dig up a whole bunch of new stuff and make it. So we take all of it, throw it away. 2 years in a cell phone, done.
It's done, yeah.
Yep.
What's your opinion on hemp?
Hemp is cool. There's lots of potential in hemp in terms of cloth, I think, as a canvas.
It's good textile,
Yep.
for sure. Very strong and durable.
We get the word canvas from cannabis.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. The Declaration of Independence was written on hemp
Paper,
hemp
right?
paper.
There you
Yeah, they grew the shit out of hemp back in the day.
So then,
Sails, ropes,
so I think hemp would be a better alternative for deforestation. That was another thing I wanted to talk about.
Sorry,
No.
I kind of knew you would get into it, so I was going to try to segue a little bit.
We nailed it. Yeah, that's where we need to get. So deforestation, hemp, to make wood and cardboard boxes, why not hemp?
Yeah.
Right? Why cut down 100-year-old trees when we can just get really good pulp from hemp?
Replace plastic bags with hemp bags. I mean, it's very doable, very plausible. It's cheaper. It's easier to grow. Less water is needed to water a hemp plant. They don't need as much water as the plastic resource. I've looked into this since we had that conversation. I was like, I love the hemp idea. And I was like, why do I love it? And we reinsure myself. And I was like, damn.
Yeah. It shows promise as opposed to plastic fossil fuel based synthetics, and that's a reality in terms of paper and plastics.
Also, we were talking about food, the food production. The amount of you can get a lot of protein from hemp hearts, from like the hemp seeds.
I eat them.
It's a good good alternative to maybe some of the meats that we don't need to eat all the time. For protein alone. Yeah.
Hemp and eggs can get you far.
I've never had. I will try that.
No, I haven't
hemp
either.
And eggs with the
No,
joint.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a good morning right there, folks.
So then, what was the other one? Can't recycle shit. Deforestation. Lots of deforestation. We use a lot of wood for fuel still. Lots of wood. Still, world still uses wood for fuel,
which is crazy.
Yeah, it was the most used. I think in like 1910, when there were cars and airplanes and stuff, wood was the most. There were more horses on the road.
Yep.
And then there was more wood burned, even in 1910. So wood and horses up until about 100 years ago. That's what the world was using.
That must have been a weird time when you were driving like a little Ford back in the day. And there's just a dude with like an Amish looking guy with a horse.
Horses.
Like, Amish the only time you can see that nowadays, but that was the norm back then.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep. Oh, and then the thing about pollution is green technology is not green because we're just displacing our pollution. All the pollution that China creates, most of it is not China's pollution. Whose pollution is it? Our pollution. We're just having them do it over there
Gotcha.
because the people can't protest that the government says you guys are doing it because we're doing this for our country.
Yep.
So they make it happen. If they had better governments, people would not let that shit fly.
Yeah.
Because they're exploiting their air, land, and water to make our shit. It's not China's pollution. It's not the Chinese government polluting. It's they're making the stuff we buy. And that's clothes, technologies, all these things. It's all our crap. It's not China's pollution. It's our pollution.
Yeah, that's the stereotype. If you look at anything, it's just made in China. That's
Yep.
that's the stereotype that's like really freaking accurate most of the time.
Yep. So the problems, I guess, are like, do we want to do all the carbon production in the beginning to make the materials, which that's what we're doing with nuclear power and solar power? You know what I mean? Of making and that's the good benefit because when we do that stuff, we're not making the carbon on the back end. You know what I mean? And then the displacement of pollution is the second thought we need to have because when we're making all of our clean technology, we're using Africa mines with dirty mining to get cobalt and stuff. Then we're using the production unregulated to put chemicals into the air throughout Asia. So we're not clean energy like hippies or whatever. We're doing environmental damage at enormous capacities. So that's it.
It's like a wolf in cheap clothes kind of when it comes to solar and shit like that, and you know, electronic energy and whatnot.
It has promise. I mean, in terms of in the production of electricity, it's a better it can be a better alternative in terms of sustainability. It's not a zero. It's not a perfect answer.
I think it's important to note it's still relatively early too in its development, right?
Yeah, that's why I keep saying that 40 to 50 year transition of nuclear because that gets us off of. It takes about like 5 to 10 years to make the facility. So if we started now, 5 to 10 years, we get nuclear. We can get at least over 50% of Massachusetts in the next 5 to 10 years after that of no carbon emissions from electricity, like 50%, 60%.
Yeah.
And that's the most realistic goal because if we decided that we're going to magically make renewable energy happen, we can't. The technology isn't there until battery storage gets where it needs to be, and that doesn't show as much promise as it should.
Wouldn't it kind of be a futile effort, though, at the same time, if we can't get the consensus of the world to agree upon the transition to this?
I think we can lead by example, right?
Yeah, I agree. I just think there's going to be a lot of opposition and lobbying from these big companies and influencing other Saudi Arabia. What the hell are they going to do? If say the whole world does it, but Saudi, what are they going to do?
That's it. They can just keep selling to Russia and China. And they do whatever they want. But so that's the interesting part.
Because you can't force anything on anyone. That's
But we can at least lead by example, and I think that's the best. You know what I mean? Like show the world it's possible.
Kind of persuade this
exactly,
might be the right
and
way,
just
guys.
say this is what we're doing here, and then we get all the United States cities to do it, and that won't put the oil companies out of business. They'll still make money. There's still all sorts of materials.
Burn them all to the ground.
Right.
To hell with them.
Right. Well, no, don't say that because I'd rather a whole bunch of Texas rednecks in charge than a bunch of Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they don't have ties to Epstein and shit.
But they'll at least think I'm crazy and what is it? What is it? Them and their gods, but they won't be pouring oil on me.
Yeah.
Like they do in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
You know?
They're weird over there. You know they make it rain artificially and stuff like that?
Yeah, we've mentioned
Yeah,
that,
it's bizarre, man. They cloud seed and they're very odd. The richest, on paper, not on paper, the richest people in the world, without a question.
Because their country's just an oil country.
Yeah.
That's all, and it's all consolidated, so it's extremely wealthy.
Yep.
Few thousand people, then the rest is objectively poor.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Man, I don't
So
know.
main takeaways, fossil fuels are limited, polluting. We have the choice of replacing them with solar and wind, but those aren't the best energy sources right now and to power big cities. So let's get nuclear energy for a little bit. That's it. That's my pitch.
I'm with
And
it.
China's gonna fucking control.
Yeah, no, listen, everything you said I'm going to look into. I'm not going to look into the fact that China's controlling everything because that's
a
happening.
given.
Listen, guys, I want you to do your own research. Just know for a fact China is the dominant force right now, and it's unless something dramatic changes, that's not going to stop. I
Yeah.
mean, we need serious action against the CCP, man. It's crazy.
Well, not even. We need to lead by example and not give them so much control and rein in our consumerism to
Yeah.
waste less. So we waste less. We'd stop all the plastic bags, all that shit that they produce there. No mas. We don't want
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? Just everything, the technology, and then we can start to leverage human rights type stuff.
I was going to say, hopefully that leads to their population realizing what the hell's actually going on.
Exactly.
I mean, they had the Hong Kong protesters and stuff like that, which was big. There was thousands of people, but
Yeah, they need at least 300 million people.
I was going to say out of billions.
Yeah, they need 300 million to reach a critical mass.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's tough, but I imagine it will happen at some point. Hopefully we'll be alive to see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I'd love to visit China. Just see. I'd love to visit a lot of places. Just see what like actual living is like in other places. Not during COVID times because that would just be hell. But
Yeah.
China might not be that bad during COVID. I heard they're doing really good actually. Like
I don't.
So they say.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't believe too much.
Fair enough. Yeah, people release the virus and doing good.
Right. Any questions? Any comments?
Nah, I mean, man, there's a lot of information. Gotta do some research on nuclear. Definitely gotta do some more looking into global warming and climate change and formulate an actual opinion based on evidence. I read the Al Gore book a while ago. I forget what The Future maybe.
I don't know.
Something like that. That guy's a piece of crap. But
Yeah.
the guy who made millions of dollars off global warming, I read his book. It made me just question all that nonsense. But yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm just uninformed on the area because I haven't researched it. But I've heard people, the mainstream view is it's happening. The alternative view is it's not here. So it's like.
Well, one thing is for sure is that it's happening.
Definitely happening. I think the reason is why.
The question is whether it's man-made or not. Evidence from extractions of ice cores up in the North and South Pole and all that stuff, which can indicate times of warming and cooling, and they can go back long times, thousands of years. They can look at that and indicate that there are more longer, warmer temperatures consisting of the past time we started using fossil fuels. So the science suggests that us burning all the fuels we use puts CO2, which is a greenhouse gas, which captures warmth, into our atmosphere. So the science of that concept is true, and the evidence of the North Pole suggests that it's true. And whether it's not man-made or not, we need to prepare our agricultural systems and stuff to prepare for global warming because the temperatures are changing no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's going to affect our food and water cycles around the world. So we need to prepare for global warming because it is happening, and at the same time, we need to reduce our CO2 emissions to make sure that even if it is us, even if it isn't us, we're still not putting all those particulates in the air and destroying our Earth as we are, because we are destroying our Earth in the production of fossil fuels, in the production of manufactured goods, in the mining and fashion. Fuck fast fashion. Fuck fast fashion.
My one thing with that, just to close up on here, is, the North Pole is moving dozens of miles every year toward Russia, just consistently.
Yeah.
No one wants to explain why. Well, there's a thing called intercontinental pole shifts, where the north and south magnetic poles flip flop. It happens every couple 100,000 years. Last time it happens, it was an ice age.
Yeah.
This is a thing that happens. Interestingly enough, we're hundreds of thousands of years past due for one.
Yeah.
It's not it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. What the consensus is, the beginning of it is the change in climate, and the North and South Pole start to flip flop. The North Pole is not true north anymore. It's not there. It's hundreds of miles away. It's near Russia at this point.
There we go.
If we keep going, they're gonna just flip. So it's like, that's why I'm like, okay, why does every time I've ever heard anyone talk about global warming or climate change, I never hear that. Why? Like, that we can't fix. You can't stop a natural occurrence. I think that's the reason. If that is contributing, I think that's just like one of those things. You know, we don't look up. the Netflix movie with the meteor and shit.
Okay. No.
And it's like everyone's freaking out because a meteor's gonna kill everyone.
Okay.
The media's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's like no one's actually talking about it until like the very end because it's like, what are you gonna tell people we're all gonna fucking freeze to death and we can't do anything about it? You know, it's. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying the North Pole is moving for sure, and we're overdue by hundreds of thousands of years for a pole shift.
Definitely.
But
yeah,
I'm not a scientist.
No.
I just get stoned and look at research,
Right,
look at
yeah.
papers.
But it is the climate is changing, and the evidence I think suggests relatively rudimentary that we are having an impact on
It's
it.
definitely changing. Yeah. I should clarify when I said if it's happening or not. It's definitely happening. The key point is: are we speeding it up or the direct causation? That I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Are we speeding it up? Probably. Are we the direct and sole reason? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
But
where I stand.
Yeah, if we could reduce the negative impacts, which we could, and prepare for the negative impacts.
Absolutely.
Those are the 2 steps.
Yeah, even if we're not doing anything to it, why would we still continue to pollute? You know, it just practically it makes no sense.
And fossil fuels are finite.
100. Yes.
So.
While other people get rich off slave labor and shit, there's so many. Aside from that, so many reasons.
Yeah.
Folks, we gotta do better.
That's it. We can do much better.
Uh,
All right. So energy, nuclear, waste less. Waste less, care about yourself, eat healthy, do your push-ups. Anything else? Drink your water.
Vitamins, baby. Take the vitamins.
Take the vitamins. Zinc, vitamin D. What vitamins do you take? I take calcium, iron, one of the glutathiones or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Look at you.
I don't.
I take a multi Irish sea moss capsules, elderberry capsules, vitamin D, and then it's called Azoth. It's like a mushroom concoction, just
Nice.
neurological type of thing.
Yeah.
Don't take what we take. Ask a doctor. Do your own thing. We're not doctors, but everyone needs vitamins.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I
know?
put the mushroom powders in my coffee in the morning.
That's good. Yeah. I don't like the taste of mushrooms, so I get the capsules.
Okay.
They're a little like more expensive, but I'll just pop 2 a day. You know.
See, I'm a
something like
coffee
that.
addict.
Yeah.
So when I drink 7 cups of coffee, I need to put the other stuff in it, and
Yeah.
it changes the flavor
Yeah,
of it. It turns
yeah.
into like a chai coffee.
Definitely
It's
spice it
delicious.
up a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's really cool because
Yeah.
I put like turmeric in it too.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, I think that's it.
Absolutely.
Wrap it up. All right, peace. Thank you
Thank
once
you.
again, bro.
Absolutely. Good
Killed
stuff
it.
as always. Everyone
Well.
take care, and thank you all for watching as always. One love.
Peace.
That's good stuff right there.